All right, welcome in. Hope you're having a great Monday. Dennis Fithian with you here on the Maize and Blue Review. We're here weekdays at 1 o'clock. We're a part of Rivals.com. We talk about the latest in Michigan sports. And here on this Monday, plenty to get to, including over the weekend, bunch of Wolverines going pro. Couple getting drafted, couple undrafted free agents getting on and latching on to some teams. We'll cover that, but we'll get to the big news in Michigan, and that is a departure for the Wolverines, and it comes in the form of a point guard from the basketball team. Probably heard the news. Frankie Collins, number 10, the freshman point guard, hits the transfer portal, and Collins now is going to be moving on, which leaves this basketball team. And if you're a basketball fan, scratching your head. It's like, why would Frankie Collins, a guy who showed up late in the season, did a hell of a job in the first round of the NCAA tournament, arrived. And with the departure of Devontae Jones, was in position to run this team. Why would he hit the transfer portal? Well, that is a very good question, one that we're going to talk about a little bit here. Why would Frankie Collins go to the transfer portal? Could it have been his minutes last year? Could he have been disgruntled last year that he didn't get more playing time? You almost, as a rule, you take a team that's expected to be win a World Series, go to the Super Bowl, whatever, win the NBA Finals, and you find a team below 500 in the early going, look like they're not even going to make the playoffs, and in this case, not make the postseason in the NCAA tournament, fall from the ranks of the top 25, I'm going to show you a team that's you're going to have some guys, looking, saying, hey, what happened? Maybe pointing some fingers. Now, did Frankie Collins? There was a lot of talk, because Devontae Jones didn't come in, and he wasn't spectacular right off the bat. In fact, you could look at him and say, hey, he's not a very good fit. You know what? Maybe you should give Frankie Collins some more minutes. But there was, if you watched every second of every Michigan game, you saw Frankie Collins get a little bit of run in there. He had his opportunities, but, there's some spots in there like, hey, he looked pretty good, but there were some other minutes that you watch where you say, he looks like a little bit out of control. Looks like a freshman point guard. Looks like a fringe top 50 player, and that was to be expected. It certainly wasn't like, this is what's Juwan Howard doing? Now, I was going to say I didn't hear anybody saying that. Well, you do hear people saying, like, especially in the early going, when you only have so many options, you look down to the bench, you say, why not try something else? The reason why not, at the time, it got to a point where you needed to try to get Devontae Jones and get him comfortable with the team, or just hand the keys over to a true freshman point guard who hadn't shown in the games that he was ready for that. Showed some flashes, but not enough where it was like, okay, let's go ahead and just turn things over to Frankie Collins. And the coaching staff got that right. What you saw is when you got into the Big Ten and you got late into the season, Devontae Jones got more comfortable, and it was the correct move. You go to Frankie Collins, you could make a case that Michigan didn't make the NCAA tournament, and you're sitting here and talking about a complete failure of a season. If Michigan doesn't win that final game against Ohio State, the one that Devontae Jones, played his best game in the Maize and Blue, Wolverines are not getting into the postseason. And you tell me, Frankie Collins would have done that? Yeah, you could say that. And Frankie Collins can believe that. But Frankie Collins, he did a nice job when needed in the NCAA tournament. And then here's the thing. So he could have been a little disgruntled about his minutes, but looking back at it and how he had his coming out party really in the first half against Michigan State when Jones got into foul trouble. And then, of course, in the NCAA tournament where most people watched him. And you could say, you could see why, after a freshman year looking back, I don't know if you could be completely satisfied, but from the outside looking in, you could say, hey, you had a good freshman year. No, I mean, were you expecting to be All-American, freshman, all Big Ten, all those things? I don't know, whatever. I'm sure you put your goals there And as a unit, I guess as a class, if you talk about Michigan, you could say, hey, the overall class that was you know, what preseason 3, or I'm sorry, the freshman class ranked 3 by rivals. Some others had him number 1. You heard it, like this is the number 1 recruiting class, Juwan Howard, and for a lot of it, it looked like it was going to be a number 1 class. Memphis and Duke leapfrogged them in the rankings there, but nonetheless, Michigan had a very highly touted freshman class. Well, 2 of the guys end up getting redshirted, and so you don't see him at all. Will Cheddar, and then Isaiah Barnes, who was a 4-star. That came as a little bit of a surprise, but those players talk with the coaching staff, and they come to an agreement there that they're going to be redshirted. And so, so automatically you got 2 guys that you're not going to get contributions from. Frankie Collins, I that there's a couple things that hold true in college basketball, that the hardest position to transfer from high school to college, the most difficult transition is for point guards. The most responsibility. They got to run the team, handle the ball, make the decisions. It takes them a minute before they get comfortable. You don't see too many guys coming in as point guards and get handed the keys to a team and that they're fantastic. I'm sure there's some outliers, but generally that's not the case. It takes time. I think about Michigan when they had Xavier Simpson, and watching Xavier Simpson as a freshman, when he got into some games, I thought Xavier Simpson looked scared. Like, this guy's got no handle. He might have been able to score in Ohio or whatever, but he is not ready for Big Ten play. But it didn't mean that, hopefully he transfers or anything else. It's just like, hey, you expect that from a true freshman point guard. And then we know, Xavier Simpson ended up being, a fabulous player for Michigan. So I don't know what Frankie Collins expected. The part about this, and it might sound a little bit, I don't know if it sounds like to you or not, like I'm like railing on the guy or whatever else. I'm just pointing out, some of the things that I'm thinking about. If you wanted to ask me what I thought about Frankie Collins last week at this time, I would tell you the exact same thing that I would tell you now. He was a really entertaining player. I was really looking forward to his sophomore season. Out in the open floor, he's a jet. He's got his hair flying backwards, or his hair flying, let's say, in the wind. But he looked cool, and he was a jet in the open floor. He could get by anybody, and he could get to the rim on anybody. The future was really bright for him. But there was. I would argue with Frankie if he was sitting in here and he wanted to tell me that he thought that he should have been getting more time this year. I'd say, well, you got a little bit of time, and it just from an outside perspective looking in, it didn't look like, you were being, undercut by the coaching staff, or, that you were being done wrong by the staff, or it looked like when you had your time and had opportunities that, as expected, you had some ups and downs, but fabulous way to finish off the season, like you did late in the first half against Michigan State, and like you did all game long against Colorado State. So maybe it was the last season in the minutes, and maybe it was Michigan bringing in a transfer in Jalen Llewellyn out of Princeton, a 2-guard, a point guard, a combo guard. Now, did the coaching staff call up Frankie Collins and say, hey, we're bringing in your replacement. Looks like you're going to be on the bench again next year. You're going to have, I don't know how I doubt that's how the conversation went. Here's the thing. After what we saw of Frankie Collins last year, if he started hitting his outside shot a little bit more, I would put my money on Frankie Collins being the starting point guard for Michigan next year. I would say this is his team. He could run the team, got good chemistry with Hunter Dickinson, and the way that he finished things up, he had the inside track to run one of the top teams. They might be preseason if he would have stayed. Maybe they still will. But I think Michigan certainly one of the top 3, one of the favorites in the Big Ten. And if you're one of the favorites in the Big Ten, and a likely preseason top 10 team, as you look at it. A lot to shake out, with the transfer portal and everything else. So there'll be some jostling there. But if you told me that Frankie Collins was coming back and Michigan added Jalen Llewellyn, maybe somebody else, a solid preseason top 10 team that you're running the point for, a favorite in the Big Ten. And if you're a favorite in the Big Ten, and if you're talking about, do you think it's crazy to, see Michigan in the Final Four next year? It's not crazy talk. Not here in the offseason. So, again, from an outside point looking in, Frankie Collins was in a great situation. He had the inside track to run a Final Four type team. Was he that jaded about, coaching decisions last year? He shouldn't have been. I don't know who was informing him, telling him, hey, you should have been in there a little bit more. I don't know who he's getting his information from. You do have the name, image, and likeness, and maybe, this is complete speculation for me, but we see it across both football and basketball right now. You've seen some players that are like, hey, I want my money. And, Michigan's not playing the, here's a bag. So go ahead. You can earn money off your name, image, and likeness, but they don't have a collective right now where they're handing money out straight up for players. And so where there's some teams that called Frankie Collins and said, hey, here's 50. I don't know. Here's $100,000. You want to come in here and run our team? Is there a possibility? I'm going to say a strong is there a possibility that name, image, and likeness was a factor here? Sure. Just like it could be a factor that he could have been disgruntled last season, even though I don't think there's any reason to be disgruntled. I don't think you think there's any reason to be disgruntled. Could it be that the transfer was coming in to give him some competition? If it was just going to be Terrence Shannon Jr., who ended up not where it looked like he was going to be somebody who was going to come into Michigan, it was going to be a 2. If you had to look for another position, a 3. Would it be the same thing? Because he would not be a point guard, where Llewellyn is a combo guard, a 1 and a 2? Possibility. Could it be name, image, and likeness? Possibly. Is there something else that I'm, missing here? Maybe he's, homesick. He's from Nevada. Maybe he just wants to get back out to the West Coast. Who knows? Here's Keith speculating. We'll get to some draft in a minute, Keith. Perhaps there was something personal going on, which maybe you can find out later on with Frankie. That's right. It could be something else. That would be homesick / something else. Sure. There always could be something else. That's why, am I, again, bashing Frankie Collins for leaving? No, it just seems, I would put it, is it bizarre? Because what's the best word for it? Surprising, It's not unbelievable, shocking. It is surprising because of his freshman year and what Michigan has coming back and the prospects for him at U of M. It looked like it was going pretty good for him. That's the reason to me that it is surprising. So there it is. That's what I see when it comes down to Frankie Collins. If you, like Keith, want to get in, see Keith threw a message up. You want to put your message up, I'll get right to it. I'll answer your question. You still want to get a point in, whether it's about Michigan basketball, about the NFL draft. You want to go off the board, I'll entertain anything. Somebody put a soccer message up last week. We talked a little soccer for a minute or two. There's Keith saying, go Lions. Well, go Lions indeed. Before we get to the draft and how the Wolverines made out, some of it, certainly when it comes down to the Lions. About Frankie Collins, where he may end up, here's Kristen Peak. She works for Yahoo. I put up a tweet from Kristen, who said after entering the transfer portal yesterday, former Michigan point guard Frankie Collins has heard from Arizona State, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Wichita State, Murray State, Seton Hall, BYU, and GCU. Now, I didn't know what GCU was, but I typed in GCU basketball, and what came up first was Grand Canyon University basketball. So Grand Canyon University interested in Frankie. Out of all of those places, you say there's a better situation. Like, wow, man, a great situation for Frankie Collins. Arizona State and Texas A&M. Certainly, that's West Coast, or at least I don't know, closer to Nevada. Let's put it that way. I guess Texas A&M, nobody's talking about being West Coast. Plus, they play in the SEC. Arizona State, there it is. That's the one. That's if it's something close to being local for him, that's it. And Arizona State, you like the warm weather, and you like number one party school. That's a nice place to go. Yeah, a friend of mine went to Arizona State, stayed there, just been there for 20 years. The rest of it, we just saw Tennessee in the tournament, and Tennessee is handing out bags up front. So there's the one where you talked about name, image, and likeness. I don't know. The rest of them, who knows? Seton Hall with a new coach. The guy that was coaching the Peacocks. So, maybe he's doing a little sweet talking. Oh, yeah, BYU. That's out there as well for Frankie. So I don't know about all those schools. Here's Jason on the feedback. Let's see what Jason has to say about the Frankie Collins situation. In his opinion, the younger kids coming from high school teams where they were the chosen one and taking a back seat to the inside track hasn't worked out well. They don't have the patience to mature and develop. Well, Jason, you could be onto something there. It could be. You just go back to the reasons, the possibilities for that he left, the minutes, homesick, whatever. Yeah, not feeling like that, he was given a fair shot, just as a freshman. It's one thing for me to sit in here and tell you, like, yeah, it usually takes time for freshman point guards, but you feel like you're the chosen one. None of us have been in that situation. Like, hey, you're the greatest of all time. So you get in there, and truth be told, when I was in high school and I had no college prospects of playing college basketball, but if it would have been really easy to transfer and I could have done it, I would have gone out. I didn't really like my, but who cares? I like him. So, but yeah, I get your point, Jason, who says it's why I love Michigan. You should preach and preach and preach. Those who stay will be champions. Well, there is a point to that. I think the other point here is the ones that I'm trying to, hammer home the most is that none of those teams that are up there entered a better situation than Michigan. And he had the inside track to get handed the ball and run one of the top teams in a Power 5 conference and be another preseason top 10 this time, coming back to I know they were a preseason top 10 last year and we saw how that worked out, but you want to be thought of as a good team again. It's not like you want to be outside the top 25. So he had everything here. So that's from the surprising part. Being disgruntled, thinking you weren't used well, the grass is greener, somebody else. It might be greener for real. Say literally, but actually greener, just getting cash doesn't mean it might be more lucrative immediately going somewhere else. I mean, all those things are in play. So you just got to get used to that. If and I am used to it, like guys transferring left and right everywhere, basketball and football, and it's we've only seen this. This is new. Maybe when you say it's relatively new, it's just a year or so, for the portal. Name, image, and likeness and portal. This is new. People describing as the wild, wild west, and I don't know. Guys can go anywhere they want. Sure. I get it. Again, surprise. My last words again. Maybe you can come up with a better word. Jason, I don't know what your word is, or Keith, or somebody else out there watching. Surprising that Frankie Collins is gone. All right, to the NFL draft. Aiden Hutchinson went in the first round, second overall to the Cowboys on Thursday. Dax Hill, also in the first round, went to the Bengals. I will give. I don't think I've ever done this, so I didn't think about it. But if I had to give my Detroit Lions grade, I would go out there. I could go B plus. I could go A minus. I'll give the Lions an A minus. Now, what I thought was interesting, so I get to that second, when you're picking, you got multiple picks, you're picking number 2 overall, you're picking 32, you're picking 34. You can go, you better get a pretty good grade. You're picking pretty high. So you got a lot of ammunition. You can do a lot of things. You can come away with some big time players. I think they could have gotten an A and just sat tight and drafted, whoever they liked at 32. Could have been a safety and scene at 34. They could have drafted another outstanding player. If they wanted to wait, they could have went the Ravens route and drafted Jabo, but they went with Hutchinson, and you can't really complain, even as an outsider. I'd say an outsider, if you're not a Michigan fan, let's say you're a Michigan State fan, you can't complain too much. It was, Hutchinson, or if you liked Kayvon Thibodeau, if the Lions would have taken Thibodeau, I would not have been up in arms, they're a joke. That was disgust. I didn't think that. But I weighed both of them, and Hutchinson's more proven to me, and that he is local, and that he does fit the profile of what the culture, that all of that. It was a perfect fit. I mean, sometimes you don't want to get cute. If you got a Mona Lisa, staring you in the face, if it's perfect for you, it's just, make the pick. I did see that with my fantasy football team. I was in a text thread with them, and I noticed, it was just going off and off all weekend. And one of the guys were like, "Great draft. I'll give it a 10." One guy's giving it a 10. The other was 9-9. And I noticed 2 7s overall on Saturday, and both of them Chuck, big Michigan State guy. Bart, big Michigan State guy. Both of my friends that are big Michigan State guys downgraded the draft. I didn't have to ask them. So there's going to be some of that, but so you always have to put some of that stuff in play. But I think that is it fair if somebody didn't like moving up to take the wide receiver out of Alabama, Jamison Williams, if you were worried about his knee? And you know what, if that is something that worries you, I get that. They didn't have to give up an extraordinary amount. Any way that you want to look at, the draft compensation, you look at the formula, it worked out in the Lions' favor. If you didn't think they needed a wide receiver, I mean, all those things are fair. He would have gotten picked pretty quickly. Myself, I would have gone with the safety from Notre Dame with the Ravens, Hamilton. If they were going to move up, I would have done that, or have just sat tight. But meanwhile, the wide receivers right now and where it's at in the NFL, if you want to be right on the edge or right there with what everybody's doing, that's what the Lions are doing. And the other part is that I'm looking at next year still not as a year that the Lions are going to surprise everybody in the NFC North. Not a year that the Lions, are thinking about why not us, winning the NFC or, Super Bowl or something like that. I'm not thinking any of those things. I'm thinking, again, that this can be another, 4 or 5 win team, and they could be picking in the top 5 and get their quarterback for the future next year. And if they don't, the over and under in Vegas is 6. If they ended up going over and they win 7 or 8 games and they're picking in the early teens, well, they're going to have to use maybe the pick that they got from the Rams and put it together to maybe move up to get one of the quarterbacks that they desire. I don't think that they're going to go with Jared Goff and he is going to take him to the promised land in 2024. I don't think that. I think it's more like 2025, and it's going to be, I'll just say right now, hopefully it's going to be Young from Alabama. That would be their quarterback. And that's a long ways off, to think about the Lions being competitive in the NFC North and talk about getting a home playoff game and winning a playoff game, but I'm looking at 2025 for that. 2023 or 2022 next year, I'm looking for it not to be a very good year. And then I'm looking at them come back with a rookie quarterback. You can make a case that, they can have another bad record. Yeah, I mean, I know that's a long ways off. People don't like to think about it, that far off. And that is understandable to me. We've got more people coming in about Frankie Collins. I'll get to that feedback coming up. A couple things on the draft here. Keith just wanted him to stay put, get a jobbo, not trade back. But he doesn't like the draft capital. He thought it was too much. You look at the trade charts and the value charts, it doesn't look like it was too much. But if you're thinking that you're playing the long view, and why not just take, the players there? And I don't think they could have lost. Yeah, I guess they could have, but I think they would have been all right if they would have chilled and not maneuvered around. Meanwhile, I like teams maneuvering up and down the draft board. It's aggressive. You target your guy, you go after him, you get him. I like that as, an idea for a general manager. So we'll see how that works out for the Lions and company. Regarding the rest of the Michigan players here, David Ajabo, Keith was mentioning him. He goes in the second round, 45th overall to the Ravens. Ravens have been universally praised for their draft with good reason. Solid organization. They always seem to do a really good job. You got Hassan Haskins going in the fourth round a little bit earlier than projected. The 26th pick in the fourth round, 131 overall. I like this fit for Haskins. You got Derrick Henry there who gets so many carries. And the Titans, they're all about lining it up and running it over Taylor Lewan and tenderizing you. It's a different type of team under Mike Vrabel. But if you think about it, last year when Derrick Henry went down, Deontay Foreman, they had a couple other backs in there, but Foreman was more of a bigger back. Nobody's like Derrick Henry, but they lost Foreman to the Panthers. So Hassan Haskins, it's a great fit to go to Tennessee for Haskins. If you just think about that, a running back who Michigan showed when Blake Corum went down, instead of sharing the load even more, they just said, no, let's load up Haskins. Just give him every carry. And, he was effective that way. 28 carries against OSU, all of it. You just get him close to 30 carries. Nobody wants to see the king get injured. Talking about Derrick Henry. But Haskins, as he's not a change of pace. He is more like he's a physical runner, but somebody that is going to fit in with the way that Vrabel and company like to run the ball. That's a nice selection there for Tennessee. The Flaming T's get a good one. And Haskins. Stuber, you get picked by Bill Belichick. Wouldn't surprise me if Stuber somehow fits into the plans and is on the offensive line for the Patriots next year. That's just how Bill Belichick rolls. Now, for the rest of the guys, the undrafted free agents, let's see if I can bring up a board here. I can. You had Chris Hinton reaching in undrafted free agent agreement with the Giants. They all got these nice pictures here, free agent with the Vegas thing in there. There you see it for Hinton, goes to the Giants. A couple other guys that got selected here. We'll move Josh Ross. There he is. Ravens again. Nice fit there. Ravens. Harbaugh. Ajabo. Ross. See that working out between. Oh, he said, hey, you want a guy that's a multiple-time captain? Fit in there with you? Jim? John? Go ahead, take him. Hey, you want our defensive coordinator? You want, we see how this has worked. Brad Hawkins goes to the Falcons. There it is. Who else? Donovan Jeter. Steelers. Good organization there. Congratulations to Donovan Jeter. And there's a picture of Jeter in the, I say yellow and black and yellow, but I don't think the Steeler fans like that. I know a few of them. They get ticked off. Vincent Gray Where's he go? Saints, free agent. And so there you go. There's where the undrafted free agent guys went. And Dalen Baldwin, wide receiver, Michigan, he also got a free agent deal. He went to the Giants. So there you go. When it comes down to the free agents and how it worked out. All right, let's hit the feedback from some guys that didn't get in. There's Jason. He likes this show. We like you, Jason. Here's Bloom up today. I don't think Frankie Collins was a good fit with Hunter back. I think Collins would thrive more in a fast-paced offense than having a lumbering center. Well, I see why you're saying that, because Frankie Collins is a jet and flying up and down and, yeah, going to a team. But here's the thing about Michigan. Michigan liked running. They get out and they are a totally fast break team. Get out and fly. And yet, if it's not there, then you back it up and then you get into a half court with Hunter. But I see what you're saying there. If I think if Moussa Diabate comes back, it'll be interesting to see if they split those two up. Talking about Hunter and Diabate, and see if it gets more into a running type situation. But I don't know. I there was a number of plays I think about in that Colorado State game, or I think about in that first half against Tennessee, where, yeah, Collins was great in the open floor. I mean, he's how many times have I said jet just in this particular broadcast? I mean, he's downhill, ball in the hand. I mean, he is ready to go. He's attacking. He is awesome in the open floor. Also, you get him into the half court, he was turning the corner on guys and making all kinds of really nice passes to Hunter Dickinson. If there's one thing that Hunter could work on a little bit more, is being available for those passes. And I don't know if it's being a little bit too upright, just being in position more to get him. I see what you're saying there. But I think that, and you might, maybe that's what somebody was telling Frankie Collins. Hey, go to a fast break team. You don't need Hunter. Like, I would want to play with a team, like, and those teams that are mentioned, none of those teams, maybe Tennessee. Well, they're losing some players too. Are they just going to hand Frankie the ball and say, hey, it's your team. Go ahead, do whatever you want. Shoot anytime you want, Frankie. Again, maybe. Let's see. Jason likes the healthy Jameson. Going to torch the NFC North like Jefferson in Minnesota now if we can get a quarterback. Yeah, get a quarterback. There you go, Jason. I'm with you. More for Keith. Loves Haskins. He thought Lions. Hitting his dad. Yeah, that is the same hitting that his dad, what you were talking about. I was surprised. I thought a team would maybe take a flyer on him in the 6th or 7th round. So there it is. To recap, you were just tuning in, went over where all the Wolverines went in the draft and everything else. I give the Lions an A-. I repeat that. I don't know if I've never yet. But yeah, I don't remember giving the Lions an A-. Usually maybe a B, but an A-. I like the draft. And with Frankie Collins, surprising is the word that I use here. Why a guy that showed some flashes and was ready to take over a team that was going to be one of the favorites in the Big Ten and a preseason top 10 would bolt for greener pastures. I don't know. He was disgruntled this year. I'm arguing about that. I don't know about arguing, discussing that on the Maize and Blue Review posting board today, which you should be involved with. That's not the Maize and Blue posting board I was going to show you. This one. Here it is, the Maize and Blue Review. Join up today. Go to MichiganRivals.com. Subscribe to the Maize and Blue Review on YouTube if you're watching right now. That's going to be real easy. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and these conversations that we're having right now, we have nonstop on the Maize and Blue Review. It's a great community. It's fun to be there. You'll be up to speed, up to the second on Michigan. So we'll see you over there. Thanks for everybody participating. We will be back at you tomorrow, and we'll take a look at Mr. Llewellyn, the transfer from Princeton, and what he looks like in the Maize and Blue, and we'll cook something up football-wise. Till then. Everybody have a great Monday. See you later.